Today we're going to review the upcoming British Columbia government's cooling off period, and we're starting now. I'm Lisa Salt with RE/MAX Vernon Salt Fowler, and I thought today it would be timely to look a little bit more in depth at this cooling off period, which is technically called the Home Buyer Rescission Period Regulation, or HBRPR. That is a mouthful. But before we do, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video, as we're posting new videos every single week. On this channel, we give you the straight goods on Vernon and the whole Okanagan, our ultimate Four Seasons paradise. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days or just curious about the area that we call home, be sure to call, text, or email and just add salt. On April 25th, 2022, just as the BC real estate market was starting to tip over, the provincial government decided to establish a new homebuyer rescission regime, which focused on this cooling off period we're going to talk about. That cooling off period allows buyers to have more time to consider their offer after they make it, giving buyers 3 more mandatory days to make sure they still want to buy the house. Then on July 21st, 2022, the government announced the Home Buyer Rescission Period Regulation. Now that sets out further details regarding this whole cooling off period thing. And now this cooling off period, or this rescission period, is set to come into effect on January 3rd, 2023. Now, why is this happening? Well, at the time, there were concerns that home buyers, in order to compete and win a multiple offer, were having to write unconditional offers. So no conditions, meaning no subject to financing, no home inspection, no anything. It was just all cash, no subjects. One article I read states that industry representatives believe more than 70% of the offers in BC's most competitive markets in 2021 were made without conditions. Now in Vernon, we haven't experienced that, not in our market, certainly not that high. Although admittedly, there were more unconditional offers written in 2021 at the height of the boom than I have ever seen before in my 30 years of experience. Now this rescission regulation gives buyers a statutory right to rescind their offer to purchase a residential property within 3 clear business days after the offer has been accepted. Now, a clear business day means a day that isn't a Saturday, it's not a Sunday, and it's not a holiday. Now, this cooling off period applies to all contracts for the purchase of residential real estate. Not only those that are made without conditions, but all of them. Now, your first question may be, and this was my first question, what prohibits buyers from running around making 10 offers and then backing out of all but the one that they feel was the best value? And in the meantime, holding up 9 other sellers from selling their homes during that 3-day period? Well, here's the answer. There's a cost. The rescission regulation requires that a rescinding buyer pay an amount equal to 0.25% of the purchase price to the seller for canceling the offer during that cooling off period. So for example, let's look at a $1 million property. The penalty then would be 0.25%, which would be $2,500. That would be paid from the deposit to the seller, and then any remaining money in the deposit, say it was a $20,000, say it's a $10,000 deposit, then the other $7,500 would be returned back to the buyer. But the $2,500 would be transferred directly to the seller. Now, a home buyer cannot waive the statutory rescission right. This, of course, means more paperwork when you put in an offer to purchase a house. So the mandatory paperwork that you'll be signing will include the following notices: that the HBRP cannot be waived, the rescission period time length, the dollar amount of the rescission fee, the deposit handling, and if there's any exemptions. So for example, leased land, auction sales, assignments, those pre-construction sales already have a 7-day rescission period on those. So also court-ordered sales as well are exempt. Now let's look at some frequently asked questions. What if there's no deposit? And this is a great question because often in our market, the deposit is due upon final subject removal date. So let's say you're a seller. You accept an offer with no deposit upon acceptance. Or actually often many deposits are due, say, 3 business days after the offer is accepted, which is the same time frame as the rescission period. And so what happens if the buyer bails? They rescind and there's no money in a deposit. So the money's due, however, how do you get it? Well, you guessed it, you have to sue and go to small claims court. Fun. Now, follow-up question, does a buyer need to provide a deposit? No. Deposits are negotiable as to how much, when they're tendered, and if they are even given with an offer. Problematic in this situation? You bet. But having no deposit is always a terrible idea anyways. However, that's a topic for another video. Another question, how does the seller get notified of the buyer rescinding? So the notice has to be given by registered mail, so you could also go back to the 90s and fax them, or by email with a red receipt. I imagine all this will be done through the realtors, as realtors are able to accept notices and service notices on behalf of their client. If I'm a seller, can I rescind? Nope, buyers only. Sorry, sellers. Does a buyer need a reason to rescind? Nope, no reason required. Anything. Can the buyer and seller agree to waive the right of rescission? No, they cannot. It is legislated. It cannot be waived. Can a buyer and a seller contractually agree to a lower rescission fee than the 0.25%? No, the regulation is 0.25% and there is no changing it. Does this HBRPR apply to commercial properties? No, only residential. What if my offer is a backup offer? Same deal applies. 3 true business days after the offer was accepted, period. Does this apply to manufactured homes? Yes, to those on their own land. No, to those on pads. So there it is, everyone. That is all I know. Like literally, that's all I know on this. This video was made on December 10th, 2022, and anything could change, and we haven't even seen the forms to be signed yet. However, at this time, this is the way it is from here on if you want to buy a house and if you want to sell a house. There's this 3 days of limbo for both parties to cool off a market that has already cooled. Anyhow, welcome to real estate sales in the province of British Columbia. If you're new to home buying and you're educating yourself on the subject of home buying, you should definitely watch our next video on deposits versus down payments. It's called Deposit versus Down Payment when buying a house. And then definitely make sure that you call RE/MAX Vernon Salt Fowler with any questions at any time.